So, hello, welcome to, again, the next episode of the Existential Files. Hello, Louie.
Hi, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We've talked a little bit about, a range of things, and a few times, obviously, the idea of parapsychology has come up, because that would be the place in which you and I would have, as it were, met.
Yeah.
Your PhD in parapsychology. We were doing some research looking at essentially ESP, extrasensory perception, using a certain methodology called the ganzfeld. Interestingly, we don't see any more research these days being done using that methodology.
Right.
So, and we can talk more about some of that side of it. The actual area I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about was a television program that both you and I got involved in quite some extent. Again, back around that same time, so about early to mid 2000s. And that's a television program called Most Haunted. Because we were both involved with that program in the role of, to use the term, sceptics. People who are there to provide, I think often this idea of talking about the voice of reason. So first thing is to explain the TV show Most Haunted. So many people who may be listening to this, maybe not, may have at least heard of the TV show. I suspect many people won't have heard of it. It was, I don't know, people need to go onto Wikipedia now and find out some of the history of it. I was first involved with it where I think they got to the end of their first TV series and then offered the first, or put together the first one-off live show on, of course, actually we should be doing this one on Halloween. We'll save this one for Halloween. It was a Halloween show. And they contacted me to say, we want to explore these ideas and do it on a live show at Dudley Castle, which is supposed to be haunted. And we're going to have mediums, we're going to have all these things, do investigations. And we'd love to have you on there as a skeptic, as a so-called parapsychologist or psychologist, who is going to give a kind of more balanced side of things. If there's somebody there saying, I've witnessed a ghost or something weird's happened, you can then explain, well, yeah, it may be that, but here are some... what would be the scientific side of it? So often it was this idea where I wasn't necessarily involved with the investigation itself. There are other people doing that. I say investigation in inverted commas. I was there as someone to say, okay, well, what could be a so-called normal explanation for what we're seeing here?
And my understanding is that that's a legal requirement for them to have that as well.
So there was a sense that even if it's something like a 3-hour live show, and you get these kind of, part of every hour, 5 minutes or so to say, here's a normal explanation for it. I do think it allows them to meet, at least what was then called Ofcom, I'm not sure it's still called Ofcom, but some of the kind of regulation to say, well, to display balance here, you can't have a whole show saying, oh, this medium is possessed, or this person's seeing a ghost, or people having weird experiences, it must be paranormal, for it to be broadcastable. And again, this is in the early 2000s where I'm not sure if there are also different regulations for so-called satellite broadcasters as opposed to terrestrial broadcasters. I don't know if that differs. But they felt as though at the time it was on living TV and they were doing the show. And so I agreed to do it because I thought, well, one, they're paying some money for it, let's be honest. It would be fun. It was a one-off for a Halloween show, a ghost show. And I was always reminded of one of my kind of, I'd say, favourite shows, but a show I enjoyed watching at the time, was a TV show called Ghostwatch.
Right, yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
It was Michael Parkinson presenting what appears to be this kind of live ghost show on Halloween. And actually it was a mock show, and it's basically all scripted. But the idea that, imagine if you did this kind of live ghost show on TV and the ghost started taking over and it was all a bit strange. And it's very popular, got lots of people interested. I think probably some viewers thought it was real. Had people like Michael Parkinson on there. If you remember people like Mike Smith, Sarah Green, big names from the day who were involved.
I mean,
in television presenting.
was it a pro? I seem to remember it being a one. Was it not a one-off or was it a series?
Ghostwatch was, I think it was a one-off for Halloween.
Yeah, because I watched it and it absolutely terrified the life out of me. I probably had tears streaming down my face watching that show, because I remember at one point they were like, let's go back. Did anyone see that? Did everybody see that? And then I was like, no, what? And then they went back and there was definitely someone there. Well, you know, I was a kid at the time, and, you know, for me, I kind of assumed, oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God. But obviously, you know, there wasn't somebody the first time, and the second time there was somebody. But no, Ghostwatch was very scary.
So it had the desired effect on you, and absolutely, and it goes back to, we were talking today about Orson Welles and his portrayal, was it War of the Worlds?
War of the Worlds, yeah.
Video sort of broadcast that, again, people thought was real.
Yeah.
So it had that feel to it.
Definitely.
And I like this idea where people are doing drama or something which is kind of giving you a sense of, oh, is this real? Is it not real? And Most Haunted, then, the idea behind it was that it was real, I would say. You know, the idea is, you know, they're genuinely going to look to see if there are ghosts in this so-called haunted location. And this was an attempt to bring television cameras into a haunted location. I believe the television series, because they've done obviously quite a few series since then, is aimed about, you spend 24 hours in a particular haunted location, and let's see what happens. Let's see if we can experience any of the experiences that people tend to report here. And the live show is going to be, let's do it live to see what's happening. You know, can we capture it live on television? And I think, at least inspired by things like Ghostwatch, to say, oh, it'd be great if we could have that foot in quotes for real. And I think, and this is where I'm again happy to be corrected by anybody, that I think also the Blair Witch Project, which at the time had been quite successful or popular, that people were kind of this idea that, you know, the Blair Witch Project was a film, but when it came out, it was being portrayed as though, oh, there's this footage being found by these people who went out to this place, and the footage being discovered, and a lot of it was kind of pre-selfies, but people were using a video camera faced on themselves, so what you wouldn't always envision, it was maybe a bit of night vision, a bit of blurriness, so it had that sense of, this looks genuine. It's not all polished.
I mean, when I went to go and see Blair Witch at the cinema, this is, you know, we didn't have the internet in the same way we have now, you know, and I didn't really know very much about the movie. And I remember questioning through the entire movie, going, you know, is this real? Does this really happen? And I found Blair Witch very, very scary.
Absolutely, and that was
very scary
design, and again very novel and probably quite low budget.
Yeah,
because you're not going for kind of high production values. You're trying to do it as though it looks real, as though if someone was going and exploring this stuff, you were going to go to so now I'm taking it back to Most Haunted, if you're going to go to a haunted location, take along a camera, do what you can, and you sort of try and capture what's happening. Now, from a viewer, you then put more closely to what would it be like if I was there. And again, you won't be editing this in a certain way. If people get scared, you'll see the camera getting pushed around and so on. And that's what I think Most Haunted has been done very well to build effectively a reasonable following. Again, I always catch myself there because I think amongst the so-called people who are interested in the paranormal and ghosts, Most Haunted will be something they'll be very, very familiar with.
Sure.
I think in the wider world, people will go, never heard of it. Because, again, this idea of the paranormal interest world is a small niche area. So, yeah, so that's the program we've talked about a few times. So that's how I got involved with it. And then I think down the line, you were also playing the role. So did you do any of the live shows, Louie? I think you mentioned.
Yeah, I did a few live shows. I was basically your understudy.
Yes.
When they couldn't get the tip top Matthew Smith, there was a Louie fullback position Louie, and I did a few stand-ins for you a couple of times.
Did you enjoy doing it?
Very much so. I mean, for me, as somebody who, and I came to parapsychology through, I mean, I'm sure the Society for Psychical Research, and for people who don't know, this is a small society in London. They have a library and they publish a journal, but they're interested in what they call psychical research, which is phenomena associated that we might call the paranormal, but they do it in a in quote scientific way. And I was a member of the SPR from 16, 15, and I would go to lectures and hear talks and things. And as an academic parapsychologist, I was going to conferences, I was reading academic journals, but the opportunity to meet mediums and go to a haunted house and experience what it's like to have a natural the kind of experience that real world people have, which are the kind of experiences that inspired us to be parapsychologists. I mean, no, I don't think many people become parapsychologists because they read a parapsychology journal and go, hey, that p-value inspires me to be a parapsychologist. I think we're kind of inspired by the real world experiences of people, you know. And no, I thought it was a fascinating opportunity to see what it was like and to experience it myself. And I kind of went into it not writing off the experience, understanding that it's TV. So, you know, there's going to be a certain element of they need to create drama. But I was just going to go with the flow, experience it myself, and see how I evaluated it. And no, I thought it was a fascinating experience.
And what did you come away thinking about it in terms of the reality of it?
I mean, well, we went to. I mean, I did. I don't know, 3, 4, 5. You know, I did a few Most Haunted Lives. I did a few The Most Haunted TV series. I also did a classic I'm Famous and Frightened with celebrities. I mean, that was absolutely amazing.
Who were the celebrities?
Well, Roy Walker got his nipples out. Say what you see.
Walker.
Say what you see from catchphrase.
If you say it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Rentaghost. I mean, I became a parapsychologist because of Rentaghost. And for anyone who doesn't understand, you know, if you're not a child of the, you know, 1980s, or you know, if you're not British, you maybe don't remember Rentaghost, but it was a show on children's BBC, you know, with you know, with ghosts and ghosts for rent, which, you know, this is a good idea. And that was one of the inspirations for me. And I remember meeting Christopher Biggins and saying,
Rentaghost.
He was in Rentaghost, yeah. And I remember saying to him, you know, you inspired me to be a parapsychologist. And, you know, he looked at me like I was an idiot, but, you know, I had to say this.
Thinking you look a little bit like Mr. Claypole.
I do look a little bit like Mr. Claypole. That's true.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, that is true. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But
it is.
It is what it is. I mean, I found it fascinating. I mean, interacting with people like Derek Acorah. And Derek Acorah is one of Britain's most famous, you know, psychic mediums. And for me, I found it fascinating interacting with him, seeing the kind of information he gave people, seeing how people took that information, seeing his thought process, seeing how he worked. And, you know, I found it fascinating to see a medium in, you know, a psychic medium doing their thing outside of a laboratory. It's fascinating.
Absolutely. And the challenge is, so first of all, with Derek, it's interesting with Derek. So when I first did the live show at Dudley Castle, and then I was there sort of watching what was going on, I recognise that guy over there. So bear in mind, I hadn't seen the first series, but I'd met Derek when I'd been a student at Liverpool Polytechnic, as it then was, which is now Liverpool John Moores University. And I'd got involved with something called the Liverpool University Society for Psychical Research. So a minute ago you mentioned the Society for Psychical Research, because it is a bit of a mouthful, we often call the SPR.
Sure.
Now, some universities, not sure still if there are any, but would set up, you know, student society versions. So Liverpool University had one, LUSPR, set up by a then student there, Carl Williams, later became a colleague. But the context where I was involved with that society, we actually contacted a local medium to come and give a talk, and maybe a demonstration, but primarily a talk. And it was Derek. So obviously he's from Liverpool. So at the time, he was just a guy advertising the local paper. He came along, gave a talk, and it was then, however many years later, can't now think how many years later it would be, that we kind of met through Most Haunted. So that was quite, in quotes, interesting. Mm-hmm. So I think I mentioned that to him, and I think, I remember that talk, yes, you know, that was interesting because that led to these things and so on. So again, we kind of recognised there'd been a link in the past. And the problem I had more generally with the kind of holoprogram is, of course, it's telling. So the fundamental reason is, if we'd been involved in that program, you'd have had people writing to us. I've got some great letters.
Yeah.
Back for a next one, because it's in the office, and I've got it with me. I've got to read you through a letter that I got.
Right.
That talked through how I'd been so rude about Derek.
Right.
Because, of course, part of our role was there to not say rude about Derek, but to say, okay, well, he apparently is communicating with this spirit, or he's kissing all these names, or he's, at times, apparently becoming possessed by the spirit and acting in a way as though he's being possessed. And all I was doing from time to time, and you would have been doing, saying, well, that's possibly what he's doing, or here's a perhaps more likely explanation. he's making it up, he's acting, something, he's got the information some other way.
Sure.
Just allowing viewers to say, do entertain, there are other possible explanations for this, guys. Okay, we spent a few minutes thinking about that. Okay, now go ahead. Let's go and get into the fun. Let's not piss on the parade too much here, guys. We're having lots of fun here, watching people kind of get spooked out, because that's what the show was about. And our role was almost there to get, okay, we've had a few moments just saying, yeah, could be other explanations going on here, so let's go back to the fun. If anything, it was more like pantomime than anything that resembles science, because it was telly. And in fact, I remember being often introduced at the live shows as being like, the most hated man on TV, boo, hiss, boo, hiss. And it was fine, because you're kind of playing the role. And it's when people start saying, oh, well, you must believe now, you must, rein in that skepticism, because look at all these things that people are reporting, saying, well, actually, if you're really interested in exploring so-called paranormal phenomena and finding answers, I don't think you can find your answers on a TV show.
Sure. And
my take on the whole show in terms of whether it was doing something other than really entertainment.
And I think we both of us, I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, is that I think we both of us held back somewhat from, saying what we maybe want to say. Or, I mean, I certainly, for example, it was not the format to be shitting on everybody's beliefs, or for even for calling certain people out. I mean, I remember I did one of the last TV things I did was a BBC Northern Ireland late night TV show, and the researcher he emailed me and he said, look, Derek, or he phoned me and he said, Derek wants you on the show, and he wants you to be the skeptic, because we need a kind of skeptic, and you've always been I've always been pretty non-confrontational, because I'm a bit like, I just like to see what happens. My confrontation is behind the scenes. And I did this, but I said to the researcher, I don't want to do it. I don't do parapsychology anymore. I don't want to do it. And he kept asking me, and I kind of felt, look, I'm a scientist. I've just finished my PhD. I feel a certain responsibility to communicate back to people who don't spend years researching these things. I think there is a certain responsibility for me to tell, as an informed person, what my opinion is. Whether anyone's interested or not, whether anyone agrees or not, I do think there's a slight responsibility there. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go. I went there. It was kind of late night, turned up, and Derek did a little speech. And, I'm a bit of a nervous person on camera. I get a bit flustered. And so I got a bit flustered. And I basically said, look, Christianity is a cult, didn't go down very well on a Northern Ireland TV, and basically they just went, right, get this guy off the fucking TV. And that was it. And that was all I got to really say on TV about my last interaction with Derek, And I mean, we talked about David Mandel.
Have you spoken to Derek since? Or
no.
I remember that was something that was online, wasn't it? I'm sure.
Yeah. There is a YouTube video if you want to see my embarrassing. There is an embarrassing YouTube video if you want to see it. It's fine.
Let's link to it. There you go.
Yeah, you're welcome to see it. Please don't play it now. It's very embarrassing. I'm
not going to play it.
But now. If I could just say that, we talked about David Mandel in the past as being.
I was going to say it's entitled Louie Savva attacks Derek Acorah.
Well, we talked about David Mandel, and I said that he was a genuine person. And we said James Randi kind of agreed as well. He's a genuine person who just thinks that his dreams are of the future. I mean, my interpretation, my assessment, Derek Acorah, is he is, not genuinely psychic, and nor does he himself believe he's genuinely psychic. However, he makes a fair living from portraying himself in that way. And, that's as my informed opinion of Derek, that's my opinion. I mean, whether you agree with that, Matthew, or not, I mean,
I'm taken with now because I'm looking at.
Sure.
I should link to this.
It's a very embarrassing video.
Well,
please laugh.
In terms of its popularity, it's had over 300,000 views. You've got 1,500 comments, even.
Most of those are me, by the way. I have it on repeat in my house. Whenever anyone comes round, it's on repeat.
I just, like you said, that's what I'm hoping we can start getting some comments here, because it's nice to see what people write and how we respond.
Yeah.
I'll just pick up a few. Say, how can this Louie Savva guy prove there isn't a God?
Ooh.
Who the fuck's Louie Savva?
Yeah, who the fucking dude?
There's a few that are obviously anti-Derek, but some that are going on. Louie Savva, you're a dick fella.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff, of course.
I have a dick, or I am a dick.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just this.
No, well, yeah. I mean, YouTube comments are well known to be the worst comments on the internet. So, I don't particularly. I mean, I haven't been on that video for a long time. I came away from the experience going, I wish I'd known. I did say I wasn't going to do it. I did do it against my better judgment, and it didn't massively work out very well. However, I do think it's important to get out there and kind of rebut some of the popular media portrayals of, the occult, of the paranormal. If only to help people who do question them say, there are people out there that question these people, or that question the underlying, constructs, God, heaven, speaking to, because, I mean, you see somebody die in the newspaper, and there are many, many people who say, rest in peace, or see you in heaven, we'll see you soon. And I think that's fine, and if that's what you believe, fine. But there are people that don't believe that, and sometimes it can be very isolating, feeling you're the only person who doesn't believe.
Absolutely. So I think you're right. So something about, if one is interested in at least public understanding or exploring these ideas that are out there, because things like Most Haunted, even the context of paranormal, Most Haunted and related type of shows are the ones which many of the interested part of the population are looking at more than reading, saying, the SPR journals or the Journal of Parapsychology, because they are dry academic journals that aren't easy to read. If people's interest are being drawn to the spectacle of television, then there is an argument, even if you want to play down the cards of, oh, I'm a scientist. But even if there's individuals saying, well, I'm interested in this stuff myself, and here's a place where I'm asked to give my thoughts on it, and representing a subgroup of people who'd be saying, this is all fun and interesting. But if those of you are believing when someone does these things, they're quite clearly communicating with the dead, and that's the only explanation for what it is they're doing, at the very least, realize there are other possible interpretations of that.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because
kind of going along, you're colluding with a sense of, oh, that's what we do. And then in those contexts, people do kind of present a sense of, well, if you're the one questioning this, like you say, you're the in that context, the skeptic is a dirty word. Oh, you're just a skeptic. Sorry.
Well, exactly.
Questioning and exploring and wanting to find out what might be going on.
Well, exactly. And I think sometimes, if people knew, the different ways that the information that people come out with, they would be surprised that you can just go and do research, and do certain mediums have researchers that research locations beforehand and find out as much about the location as they possibly can before they even turn up. Yes, they do, and we call it cold reading, hot reading, outright fraud. And not every paranormal claimant, not every person who claims is an outright fraud. I mean, I don't believe that. And I think, looking at the evidence, there are some interesting people there who aren't outright frauds. But there is a percentage of paranormal claimants who are outright fraud. And I'm sure that if you believe or don't believe, if you do believe, you don't want to be caught out by an outright fraud, do you? Or do you just want to believe for the sake of believing?
Absolutely, and that's where people like James Randi have spent a lot of time saying, well, there are people out there who make big claims, and it's those people that he would be going after and saying, well, here's the claim you're making. What is there that supports that claim? And that's where a lot of the interest may be, saying, well, again, I've not been quite so vociferous in my skepticism to say anybody who makes these claims are fraudulent. Yes, I would agree that there'll be a proportion of people who are of that nature. I think a larger proportion of people will be people who genuinely believe they're doing something of value and genuine, but maybe the context is such that it makes it hard to properly assess that.
Sure.
And I've always been interested in that, and that's something we can come back to another time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to sort of maybe end this one in terms of saying about Most Haunted,
yeah,
and recognizing in a very, very positive way that Most Haunted changed my life, because it was through taking part in that television show I met the person who has now become my wife.
Ooh.
And that's Rachel. So she was working on the TV show as what was then described as a script supervisor. We met on one filming of it, and a few of them we sort of started to befriend each other, as it were. And let's be honest, we fell in love. And it was a time that brought lots of difficulties, as well as a huge amount of very positive things. The important thing is, in the context of Most Haunted, if I hadn't taken part in that show, I can't see a context in which she and I would have otherwise met. We've since then been now together 11 years, time of recording. We have 2 children together. So huge impact on my life. I wouldn't be with her, I wouldn't have the life I have right now if it hadn't been for Most Haunted. So even just an example of a phone call that had taken place now something like 15, 16 years ago, had a knock-on effect that my whole life changed because of that. And that, in part, was only because the person they had originally asked, I think it then turned out they couldn't do it. So if that person had done it, maybe it would have been very, very different. So I leave Most Haunted with a real positive sense of, from that came very, very good things. Yet also around it, if we look at it as a place to explore so-called paranormal ideas, it's not the best place to explore those ideas.
Yeah, I equally had I didn't meet any partners, but I definitely had a great time. It was great fun. It was a good opportunity to have a different take on the paranormal, whether its value in a kind of scientific way was minimal. It was also a very good platform. I know, we did get some very good PR out of it, and for us, recruiting participants and giving talks to interested people, it really gave us a platform that we hadn't had before to get our message out there, which was a very good thing. So I had a great time, and it was a very fun experience. If anyone was interested in that.
So there, everyone lost people's interest. So anyway, So that's Most Haunted for now. We can pick up some of the things we've raised there. So pause on this one.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cheers, Louie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Later.